Yes. So welcome again. Today we are going to discuss about our third lecture, which is about the threat modeling in secure software systems. Threat modeling is a very important concept. Probably most of you don't know about this. This is the one of the most important concept in the secure software systems and secure software engineering and secure software development in all of them. Before we start, we will try to understand that actually what is the secure software system threat modeling. So in this, we will also learn that how and why it is required to us. So threat modeling has a very important information and a very important role in not only the secure software systems, but in any type of business or process to make them secure. So we will learn about the basic entities and important entities for the threat modeling. And also we'll learn how it can be designed. And also we learn what are the different types of the threat modeling. And also we learn that how we can design the threat model for any of our software or for any of our application. And we will consider the one of the case study for designing a website to discuss about the threat modeling from a real life scenario. Maybe we can say that we are going for this for our own online exam system or something else. That example will give you the clear understanding that why it is. And also we will explore that why actually we require the threat modeling. And also we will learn that at what stage actually it is going to be work for us. On top of that, we will also learn the different types of the threat modeling. So those, how they are different from each other, models, and how they are helping us to address the different security threats. It's very important and very informative lecture related to the threat modeling. We will focus to get the right understanding. Probably we will finish it up by today, or maybe we can finish its part, that what's the threat modeling and how it's doing. And then later we will discuss the case study. That's not an actually case study, but we will apply on a case study the threat modeling, and then we see that how we are applying. So we can learn that how we can create a threat modeling for any business requirement. So provided that where we can reach today. So if we understand the core concepts and the other important things, then probably we will discuss the second part in our next lecture, or it depends that if suppose we have a time and we understand and we feel that it is means something easy, we are going fine, then we can means implement today as well. So if you allow me, just go to the second slide. So you can see from the agenda that our today's agenda is to discuss the introduction, but this introduction about the threat modeling as an overview completely, and the different stages of the threat modeling. What are the different stages for the threat modeling? Why we require threat modeling? How we design threat modeling? How it protect our business from the threats? And then you notice here that there are the two names like the Stride and Dread. It's actually, we pronounce like stride, but it's actually, the real name is STRIDE. That's why it is mentioned in caps, and each one letter is actually representing to the one of its aim, or to the one of its attack, the type of attack. The same for the dread. So you can call them like the stride or the dread. They both are the different types of the threat model or threat modeling. The most commonly used is the stride, and that's what we discuss about the stride. We will discuss also about the dread as well. So you will be understand what is the difference among them and what actually stride is for. Then we discuss about the mobile threat modeling. Because threat modeling could be for anything, for web, for computer-based system, or for any mobile app, or for any mobile-based system. So we have to understand that this is something which can be implemented, which can be helping us for any kind of application in any domain, to enhance, to find out the weaknesses, to improve the security issues in it. Then the final one is about the conclusion. In the conclusion, as you remember that in our lab session as well, we were discussing about one of the case scenario about the bikes. So you can take your time, you will see that how it is and how the threat modeling is and how you can create a better threat model for that as well. You can update that. So that will be something very important and very core in the secure software systems. So we just go to the next slide. You can see from here that the threat modeling starts with the functionality. What do I mean by the functionality? Like you remember, while you're designing a software, so we always say that each of the software or each of the system, it has the functional requirement and non-functional requirement. I hope that being a software engineering student, you are aware about these things and what are the differences among them. So the functional requirements and the non-functional requirements, they both are important for the designing and completion of the software, but mostly we consider most important, that is the functional requirement. Functional requirements are the core requirements. So in case if suppose any functional requirement is not fulfilling, not working, not addressing while we are completing our software, so it means we cannot consider that software as it is complete. While non-functional requirements are equally important, but few of the non-functional requirements are in a way, if suppose they are not addressed or not complete, so the smoothness of the software, the efficiency of the software, the scalability of the software, or any else parameter of the software could be compromised, but somehow we can say that somehow software is working. So this is the major core difference between the functional requirement and non-functional requirement, just to give you recap and recall. I know that you are very good students and you know about these all of things, but this is just only a recap to bring in your knowledge. So the threat modeling, what we are saying, that this starts at the functionality. So it means this is something which focus on that part, which is the functions of the system. Or in other words, we can say that this is more concerned towards the functional requirement part. And in this case, you can see that we use the use cases that either they are abuse or misuse cases. We have to examine them. What are the use cases are there? Are they correct or not? Are they misusing the use cases? Are they abusing mis cases? So we have to identify them by applying or deploying or coming with the threat model. Why we are saying that this is the abuse and misabuse and use cases? Do you remember in our previous lectures, we discussed that in secure software system, we are going parallel with the SDLC. So you remember there is a one step, it's a very important step, in the SDLC, that is the requirement collection. So this is something which is linked or related to the requirement collection. Or in other words, we can say that this is the initial phases of the software. So this is giving us a very high message, clear message, very high clear message that the threat modeling we are considering at the design level. That's why we are referring to the use cases and other things. Now, this is giving us one more clear aspect about the threat model, that we may not be scared that what is the threat model, maybe something mathematical will come, or maybe some means very scientific model will come. Yeah, true, it is scientific, but it is being designed like flow diagrams. So it's very simple, not to be worried about that, okay? But we need to examine about the use cases at the initial stage for the design of the software, and then we see that how we can pinpoint the point of the exploitation, vulnerabilities, and how we can control, how we can mark them, how we can mitigate them. Going back to your last lab, you remember in your last lab, we were discussing about one of the scenario for the bad bikes. They were the guys, they stolen the actually idea for the one of the company which was very popular. So you remember in the questions we were discussing that how you suggest them a good threat modeling system, or how you can provide them suggestions that they can pinpoint and find out what are the weaknesses in their system. So why I'm relating this lecture again and again with that, so you need to learn the things in a real environment, because that case is, we took it from the real environment of the industry. So this is also we are discussing to understand and link and relate with the industry. And then the case study, what we implement, that will be, we will considering that suppose for your exam center system where we are able to enter the marks and the students are able to see the marks. So all these 3 or 4 examples are the scenarios where we understand what we used to understand and what we used to implement will be from our real scenario. So this is actually the most important thing. That's why we need to link with the real things. And it's easy for you to understand as well. I again repeat, these things are very simple, so not to be worried about anything. And things are just like a 1, 2, 3. So you just try to focus how you can understand maximum. And feel free, if you have a question, you can ask during the lecture, or once we finish the lecture, you can just write down your questions and you can ask your questions. More better is that once we end of the session, you can ask the questions, because maybe some of the questions are coming in your mind, so maybe you will get the answer in upcoming slides. So it's the more better that you can pinpoint, note down the questions, and then you can ask the questions at the end if you have it still there. Now, you can see from the first point that they start with the functionality, and then you can see P exploit and P vulnerability. This P is actually the probability, possibility. How much is a possibility? How much is the probability that the system could be exploited? How much is the possibility or probability in the existing system that what points, at which state, at what level the vulnerabilities are there? Now consider these vulnerabilities are point of exploitation may not be the mistakes of the software designer, may not be the mistakes of the people who are coding, may not be the mistake of the designer who are designing the system architecture, but it could be at the time of requirement collection. So while the people were collecting the requirements, probably they collected the wrong information. Now, misuse information, abusing information means what information? Requirements. We may not say information, but requirements. So misusing the requirements and abusing requirement. Now here again, we cannot claim to the persons or the company from where we are collecting these informations, because you remember as we discussed that they are not at the same level of the technicality where you are. So probably they are asking for the sum of the requirement based on their best understanding, but they are not knowing that this is the misusing a requirement, or this requirement will be leading to the sum of the exploitation or vulnerability later on. But you as a security engineer, you need to know that this could be means taking or bringing the issues for your software later on. So that's why, going back to the previous lecture, you remember we said that whenever the requirements are collected, whenever the code is written, whatever your job is to examine it, to test it, to verify it, then all the requirements are correct, and none of the requirement is actually having any link or issue which can create a trouble for the company or for the software or for the you later on. Second point is, you can see that start what to protect. Now, once you have the whole design, the whole requirement, everything is in front of you. Now you need to decide that what to protect. This is the most important. Now, what does it mean? Like suppose in this, there are so many things they are coming. For example, we can quote the same example, the case study what we are supposed to discuss later. We can consider for your exam system, online exam system, what it is supposed to be. You are able to see your grades. You are the one actor from that particular system. Another actor is your faculty member. What's the job of the faculty member? The faculty member is try to enter your marks, enter your grades, and update your results. Another actor is the admin or the exam unit people. They are using to generate the reports, making your transcripts, making your degrees, and so much and so on. So now you can see here that the one thing which the administrators or the controller of the examination, they actually require the access to all of the schools, to all of the modules, to all of the levels. They are not concerned that you are one of the students from the School of Engineering, School of Computing, School of Medicine, School of Pharmacy, School of Business, or anything. They need the complete control. Now, while you are collecting the information, the requirement from them, so they will give the requirement according to that. As a faculty member, yes, okay, fine, but I can required, or I may have an access, the complete access for the modules what I'm teaching. The other modules, even in my same school, it doesn't neither any access or any rights to me to access to the other modules. For what reason? For why? I don't want. Okay, even if I want and the system is allowing me, so this means that is the point of exploitation. So it means that sometime maybe I can misuse it. So this is the something that the system is giving me a privileges which is beyond my requirement. That shouldn't be there. Now you are a student. So what is your role? In your case, what you require, you only require to have an access to your own particular system that you can see that what you have and what your grades are. But what I mean that you have an access, you have access that you may have access just for your module and just for you. It is not required that you may have the information about the other students' information as well from the same module. So this is how I'm just trying to give you the whole picture about the requirements, and this is how I'm just giving you that now while you are a security engineer, so you need to see that what you are supposed to protect. So you can see that what are the high level risks, what are the low level risks, and what are the assets actually, what are the indicators, and what are the domains. So now if we just consider what is the asset. So this system, examination system, that is actually an asset for the Taylor University. What we mean by the asset? The asset, it means that it is a part of a comprehensive system at the Taylor University. If it is going to be just one of the component, if it's going to be damaged, then it will have an effect on the Taylor University and on other systems as well, because it is integrated with the other systems as well. The domain is that this is the domain application for the examination. So this is how now you need to see that what you want to protect, which part you want to protect. You want to protect the process, you want to protect the domain, you want to protect the asset, you want to protect the software as a whole, you want to protect. So this is giving us a message that maybe we may have the threat models means more than one for the system, if suppose system is comprehensive and where there are multiple actors. Or we may have a one threat model which is jointly addressing the issues and the threats at the one level. So this is actually depend on the requirement. We cannot say that this is the hard and fast rule. So that's why I'm explaining to you that how you can understand before you start about the threat modeling. So today we start about the threats. Now we are saying about the threat modeling and vulnerability, point of exploitation. We already discussed them. Now it's a time to understand them in a more depth and detail. But we were saying previously that we need to discuss it later. So now today is a time to discuss them, to understand them, and then we can go for the threat modeling. Now we just go to the next slide. If we just go to the next slide, then you can see, just a minute, please. Yeah. Then you can see that there is the STRIDE. So what's the STRIDE? Normally we call this stride, it's okay. But this, as we discussed, that this letter is representing, each of them is representing one of the threat, one of the attack, one of the issue. What we mean by these things? So just see here, the S is standing for spoofing. S is standing for spoofing. T is standing for tampering. And the R is standing for the actually repudiation. The D is actually, I is actually stand for information disclosure. And then the D is standing for the denial of service. And finally, the E is standing for the elevation of privileges. So you can see that these three letters, they are actually representing to the six letters totally. So the six letters, they are representing to the six different parts, areas, threats, spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privileges. What they are? How we need to understand? It's very simple, but just going back to our same case study, what we were discussing about your exam system. Spoofing is, that someone is spoofing and he means pretending that I am ABC, but maybe he's not ABC. He's trying to spoofing, trying to get the information. You remember we discussed, okay? So this is the kind of the spoofing. What kind of activity is going to be done? This is the one of the vulnerability, weakness. Vulnerability is actually means the weakness of our system. So this vulnerability can be used for the passive attacks. So you remember that we discussed about the passive attack and the active attack. So the hacker can get the information by using this spoofing. Now, what is the tampering? Tampering is like, suppose what we are giving an example, looks like Johnny got an A. So it means that Johnny got a B and he tampered his grade and then he make it A. So now he can do this after having this spoofing, after having the passive attack, or after having anything. Maybe he have the elevation of privileges. Maybe he has your software having the weakness for the spoofing, so he can do that. Or maybe somehow he or she can have the access of the information disclosed. So now he can do that. But why? So now you understand that why we're saying that you are a student, the third actor. So in that, you are supposed to have the access to your credentials only, not even the credential of your friends, because that's not required of you. So this tampering is like, suppose that looks like Johnny got an E. So it means there is a change in the grade. What is about the repudiation? Repudiation is actually not to accept. deny. Didn't Johnny have a bee? Means whatever the information is, the true information, the correct information. So we try to deny. How we try to deny? Say, for example, for our best example, if your instructor is sending you an email, it's a very important email, or any company is sending an email to his client, it's a very important email. The client is receiving an email. The client said, I didn't receive an email. Denied. So this could be the problem. Or you are sending some email, and then when I'm saying that this email came to you from your side, and you said, no, this email is not from my side, you denied. These all information, these all things come under this class. So now how we handle it, that you will learn in the the security, network security course and other courses, or maybe you already know about that. But I just give you a little hint at how we handle it. So we handle it with the DSA and the different algorithms, which is called the digital signatures algorithm. So we need to make sure that the one who is sending and one who is receiving, they may not be able to deny. Now, the next is the information disclosure. Oh, Johnny's SSN is this one. So why I need to know the Johnny's SSN? If I know the SSN for the Johnny's, then it means now I can do the spoofing and other things. So this is actually the one of the thing, which is the information disclosure. Denial of service, which means that please try again. This message is giving us a message that it means the system is, you are not able to access the system at the moment. Sometimes it happened that we are trying to access the system, but we are not able to access the system. So it doesn't mean the system is down, but sometimes the system is under attack. So due to the jamming, due to the DDoS attack, or due to any other reason, so system performance is gone. So this is the denial of service. Then the elevation of privileges. Like suppose if you have the privilege that you can see the results for others, this is not good. This will bring some of the threats to the system. Why I have access to the all modules of even my school? No, this is access the privilege. This may bring the issue or problem. So our software at the requirement, we need to know what are the exactly means requirement and how they can meet. Now you can see from here that this is what we are saying is tried. So is tried, it is actually representing to the 6 different issues. So now why we are calling this stride? This is a model, threat model. It's called the stride. It means the model which based on the stride, that model will provide you the safety or surety to avoid these all 6 things what we discussed. So if we are going to apply the stride model, then it means that the stride model will provide us the safety and security for these issues that what we discussed. I hope that you now understand that why we are calling this stride, because there are so many other things, there are so many other issues, there are so many other problems as well we didn't discuss. So this model is actually giving you the solution for these 6 items or things or issues or problems. That comes under the stride, and that model is known as the stride. Going to the next slide. Now the question is that what is the use of threat modeling? I hope you already understand now what's the use of threat modeling. We were discussing about that. But just to clear your mind more clearly, that actually what is the issue of what is the use of the threat modeling? That is the main aim for this is what? The main aim of the threat modeling is to identify the important asset functionalities of application and to protect them. We need to identify which one is the important assets for our software. And then we need to protect. So, for any security or for anything, until we don't know what is important, then we don't know how to protect. Say, for example, if there are the 10 things, 5 things have high priority to protect, and 5 things they don't have, means very less priority to protect. But if suppose we don't know and mistakenly we are trying to protect to those which are means very low priority, and we are not taking care about the high priority, so then it means we are making a mistake. So this is what we mean that from the threat modeling, we need to know the main aim for this one is to that means identify the important assets and functionalities and then to protect them. This is the main aim for the our threat modeling. Now just see here, this is the one of the example. It is not a very what we can call fancy example, but this is one example, a very light and jolly type of example from where you can understand it clearly that what it is actually the threat modeling. Now you can see that what we say that what's the threat. So you can see I just choose this example which can give you a very light mode understanding. So there are the two friends, they are talking to each other. One of them is saying, oh, my mom threatened to ground me. What he said? Oh, my mom threatened to ground me. But then I just threatened to unfriend her. So from this, you can understand that actually what's the threat. Going ahead to understand more about the threat, that is actually here. So we will understand the threat, vulnerability, and the risk and everything. Now, what's the vulnerability? Vulnerability is nothing but, as we discussed multiple times, that it is the weakness in your system. It's a point which can be exploited in the system, which will add the attackers in successful. Because whenever the attacker, they are coming to you, so they are actually trying to pinpoint the weaknesses in your software. So this is how this is known as the vulnerability. So now this is we call the vulnerability, that is the weakness of the system. Now what happened? That is we need to pinpoint and try to reduce them as much as possible. How we will do that? This we will do with the help of the threat modeling. So now I hope that you understand the things that what it means. Now, for example, suppose you have a web server. This is a more example for your understanding about the vulnerability. That is what, say for example, that you have the web server and that web server have a very low bandwidth. Low bandwidth, it means that you are not able to entertain the more number of the requests, more number of the users at the same time. Now, this is your weakness. This is your weakness, so we can call that this is a potential vulnerability. So if suppose the hacker is trying to exploit your system, so now he can down your system easily by doing the DDoS attack. So once he will study your system and he will find that your system is weak from this point. So this is weakness, this is the vulnerability. Now he can exploit that vulnerability. So I hope that you now understand that what is meant by the vulnerability. We have other vulnerabilities. Like suppose we say that the papers, we have a bookstore, we have a paper. We say that these are the paper, they are very, very much vulnerable to the fire because that is the weakness. If a fire is start there, then it will be hard to control. If we go to the gasoline station, so we can say that please don't use the matchbox here, don't have the smoking here, because these are vulnerable to the fire. So this is actually what we mean by the vulnerability. Now the risk is what? Again, risk is simple, it's nothing, but it is the threat time vulnerability. how much risk quantity means how much the threat is multiplied by the vulnerability. That means the potential of the loss or damage of an asset as a result of the threat exploiting using. Say, for example, we have gas station. We know that we have a point of exploitation, weakness or vulnerability. That is that fire cannot bear. If the fire is just going to be started boom there, then we know that it will be hard for us to control. Then we can say that how much loss can be occurred. So that is comes under the risk. So the risk is actually the threat times multiply with the vulnerability. So these are the things that's known as the vulnerability, our concept, vulnerability and risk and point of exploitation and threat. And we need to understand them well, because if you understand them well, then only you can plan a well threat model. And where you can plan a very well threat model, you can do that at the time of the design to go through with the requirement collections and other things. How you will do that, you will learn in a couple of minutes. Just wait for that. Now for the threat modeling, so what we are normally going to do with the threat modeling, we are analyzing the security applications, whatever the application we have, because we cannot design a threat model until we don't know the weaknesses of the system, until we don't know the point of exploitations, until we don't know the threat about the system, until we don't know the point of the vulnerabilities. So that's why we need to analyze the security application. Whatever if you are a security person, they are saying this is our system, we have issues with that, please come up with a good secure threat model so we can implement those changes so we can feel that our system is more secure. So now your job starts now. So you cannot go directly, you cannot say that, okay, give me the paper and this is your threat model. No, you need to read the process of the system, read the requirement of the system to understand the system completely. Then you will be only able to know that where are these vulnerabilities and point of weaknesses which you can address. So this allows to understand the entry points to the application and their associated threats. So you need to know the process. What are the entry points? What are the exit points? And how you can protect, at what level, how much you can protect, what are the necessary things they should be taken care, what are the unnecessary things, so no need to be mistaken care about these things, and so on and so on. So not an approach to review the code. Again and again, you remember we discussed in our previous classes. Being a secure software engineer, this is not your job to write the code. Okay, this is not your job to review the code and pinpoint that what are the errors in it. That is not your job. Your job to see the functionality of the code, how it is performing. Is this functionality of the code is bringing any point of exploitation, any threat or any vulnerability? Then you pinpoint that particular section, particular part, that this is the weakness, this is the vulnerability. So you can see that how to address, so you can suggest them, and the coder or the one, they will do that for you. Threat modeling will be done in the design phase of SDLC. So now you got the clear answer that what I was giving you the hint since we started interaction. So the threat modeling is actually going to be done at the design phase. So whenever you want to see that some of the system having an issue, so you will ask them, bring us the design. We want to see your design. Why? So you can understand their requirement, their process, their point of entries and point of exit and other these things. And these things you can see from the design. So it means that there are some of the weaknesses in the design stage, and that's why that is the only reason that the system is not secure. Now go back to your lab session, what we were discussing, the case study about the bad bikes and the other bikes company. So you remember that we said that there was having a design issues. So now how you will suggest them to protect their product, to protect their design as a secure security engineer. So now I hope that you understand that how these things are interlinked with each other. Threat modeling in the SDLC will ensure the security built in from the very beginning. So these measures will be taken at the design level in the SDLC, and now you already know why we are referring again and again at the SDLC, because we are trying to secure the software. So this secure software system will be booming, rounding, means referring again and again to the SDLC, and the reason for that you already know. So now you know that where you actually require the threat modeling. And you also know how it looks like, because it will be like a flow diagrams. It's very simple. The question here is that the more critical of your job is to read and understand. Understand the flow, understand the weaknesses, understand the vulnerabilities, understand the system input and output. So only you can suggest. Go back again to your lab. You remember what the message I gave to you. Then don't read this case study. Don't read this lab. For reading, you may need 10 minutes. But you need to understand input, output, and everything. Okay, the points what we are discussing. So then you can be able to come up with a good threat model for that. So then they can be in safe hands, and their product or their designs will not be stolen again. Okay, going ahead. Now the approaches to the threat modeling. When we design the threat modeling, we have a different kind of approaches. Whatever the things we are doing, whatever the software we are doing, whatever the code we are writing, whatever the job we are doing, always we have some approach. So in the same pattern, in the same way, while we are doing for the threat modeling, we also have the different approaches. One of the approaches is the attacker-centric. Like say, for example, this is the main issue. That's why we try to read and study the design with respect to that one, that in case if suppose how we can protect from the attackers. If this is our concern, then we are saying that this approach of the threat modeling is about the known as the attacker-centric. The same, going back to your previous lab, that was the attacker-centric type approach of the threat model, because we were trying to stop them away, keep them away, that they may not design, steal the design for the company again. The second approach is software-centric, which is the STRIDE, is a software-centric approach. So in STRIDE, this is the software-centric approach. And when we say the software-centric approach, it means that we are considering more than one point. Like you see in STRIDE, we are considering more than one point. We are considering the spoofing, we're considering the tampering, we're considering the information disclosure, DDoS, elevation up, and everything. And they all are at the different stages in the levels of the software, repudiation and everything. So this is another approach for threat modeling. The third approach for the threat modeling is the asset-centric. So you remember we were discussing about what are the assets. So we are more concerned. The job is given to us. This is our problem. We want to save and secure our assets. Then in that case, we will not be focusing on the other approach, which is the software-based approach, which is the software-centric approach. In that case, we are not looking for the other approaches, but we are looking the approach what the owner or the company or the organization is demanding from us. So when we design a model, threat model, we need to know the requirements by the organization, that what type of issues you have, for what you need a solution. So mainly there are the three approaches: attacker-centric, software-centric, and the asset-centric. Go ahead. Now, high-level overview of what we are actually doing in the threat modeling. Before we go this, I believe and I hope that you got the proper understanding about that. So now you can see that what we are going to discuss as means high-level overview. When we say high-level overview, it means we are not covering the smaller aspects, but we are just discussing at the higher level. In this, we can say, just take and start, kick off, have the overview of the project, identify the assets. So while we are saying to identify the assets, it means that maybe this is the asset-centric model. Then identify the use cases. So we just try to read. Keep in mind, whenever we go for the threat modeling, either it is the asset-centric, either it is the software-centric, either it is the attacker-centric, we always need to read everything. Then only we will be able to find out the issues and the pinpoint the vulnerabilities and other things. Now you can see from here, that's why he's saying identify the use cases, draw the level 0 diagrams, analyze the stride. Then document your finding, have a meeting with the architect to review, identify the use for level 1. So just come up with the level 0 diagram and revisit the design, revisit the architecture, ask him the questions if suppose you have the confusions. And suppose you are feeling that there are the point of vulnerabilities and exploitation, ask him why this is. Maybe try to understand that what is the exit point, entry point, output point. So is it really necessary, or maybe this is done by mistakenly. So you need to revisit them and understand that. Then you just go for the level 1, because this is now you're improving, you are going to the level 1. So in level 1, draw the level 1 diagram, which is for this stride. Always document your finding. This is a very basic principle. Okay, so you always have to pinpoint about this. Have a meeting with the architect again to review and repeat the above procedure. So you need to repeat it again, that you are not missing anything. Then next step is, next sequence is ASF. ASF is Application Security Framework. Now you are in a position, because you come up with the primary information. Now you can say that prepare your checklist and send the product team, analyze the document and document your finding. Because now you will be in that level, in a position that you are close to your findings and what are the loopholes, what are the vulnerabilities, how and what changes we can make in the process so we can make it safe. Then final stage is the report. Prepare a final report, submit to the product team, and explain the findings to the product team. So now you are just going back to the product team. You are trying to explain them. These are my findings, and how these findings are required or necessary to save enforce your security of your software. Because they don't understand, you understand. If they understand, then they will ask. They didn't ask to you. So this is how as a high level overview about that. But when we will go to implement it, you will see that how we implement it. So at that time, you will see that what are the aspects and parameters we are considering, how we are addressing, how we are finding out the possibilities. So for that, we will go in the next lecture maybe, because this is very important. So that's why we are trying not to miss any concept about that. Going ahead, now we need to know how many stages are. We know that these are the 3 different type of the centric approaches. There are the 3 approaches, but now how many stages are? So there are the 3 high-level steps. Threat modeling, whenever you go for a threat modeling, you need to follow the 3 steps. What are these 3 steps? So these 3 steps are, in technicality, in technical terms, we also use them 3D. 3D is not a 3D, that's what we are saying, but here these 3D are representing to the 3 different things. What they are, the first D is decompose the application, because application is already running. So you need to make a parts of the application, try to understand. Then the second D, determine and rank the threats. So now you need to determine the same high-level process what we just discussed now. So you need to determine the threats and also rank them. What it mean by the rank them? Rank them means you need to come up with its priority. Which one is at higher priority and which one is at the lower priority. Determine the countermeasures and mitigations. So then the third D is to determine that how you can come up with the countermeasures, or how, in case if suppose this thing has happened, that how you suggest what you suggest the mitigation, and so on. So this is known as the 3D, and these 3D is the actually the 3 stages in the threat modeling. Now, how we design that? We can design that easily. This is the data flow diagrams, that what we already said. So you can see the threat modeling information is data flow diagrams, assets, then the external dependencies, and the entry points, and the trust level. It is the data flow diagram, but it is a very minute change in it. You will find a few of the information that you normally didn't use in the data flow diagram. That is known as the boundaries. We call this machine boundaries and the human boundaries and the other boundaries. So how they looks like, just in a minute, you will see in the next slide. So you can see from here that this is the data flow diagram. So you can see these are the shapes which are representing what purpose it is mentioned there. For example, from the top right side, left top corner, you can see the external entity. So if any external entity, we will represent using this shape. Process, we will using this shape. And the multiple process, we will be using this shape. I'm sure that you already know about the external process entity, and the process. You already use it in your flow diagrams. And maybe a few of you already use about the multi-process as well. Data is stored, this is the sign. Data flow, this is the sign. So you can see that this is the arrow, but this is arrow in a curve. A little bit changed from that one. Trust boundary, that's what I was saying about the boundaries. Trust boundary, process boundary, and machine boundary. So from the whole process, we identify that up to this level is a trust boundary. As an employee, we trust an employee. As an admin, we trust an admin. As a student, we trust an admin that this much level he or she will not exploit. Then the process boundary, for completion of the process, how much process A, process B, process C, and so on. And then the machine boundary. So what is the part which is going to be towards the machine? What's the part which is with the human, and what's the part which is the general process, and so on. So you can see for these processes, we have these dotted lines, but they are with the different colors. So the colors are important here. The colors are representing to the different boundaries. For example, for machine boundary, we have the blue color, and in the same way, we have a different color for the process boundary and for the trust boundaries. Now, we need to determine the and rank them the threats for the STRIDE model. So you know that in STRIDE, we have 6 different things, including the spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of the privileges. So when we go for this one, we are required to address all of the things. We are just going to end up here to the slide number 15, and we will just have a quick recap to the slide number 15 in the next week, and then we will come to the sample problem. Here is the sample problem. We consider a case study, and then on that case study, we will design, we already designed a threat model. So you will learn on for each of the steps that how we are using the 3D, how we are finding the requirements, how we are implementing, and how we are making the documenting our findings, and how we are suggesting and what is the final result. The whole process, what we discussed, we will do the practice from this slide to onward in our next lecture, because now the time is almost 1:30, so we cannot finish it in the next 20 or 25 minutes, and we have another class as well. I have another class as well. But again, the most important is that for your better understanding, so you can have go through with this, that what we cover, and if you find a time, you just go through with the rest of the slides. But in the next lecture, we will again come up to the next of the remaining slides, so you can understand the things very clearly and importantly. So thank you very much. If you have any question, please let me know. You can ask the question. I hope we try to make the things as simple as possible for your better understanding. But again, if you have any question, please let me know, and then we can go for your attendance. Yeah, please. Any question? First, you just please allow me to stop the recording, because if it goes a little longer, it is having issues due to the size. So